All right, welcome to today's class. Today we're going to be starting with ReactJS, as you can see on your screen. I hope you can see my screen. So, as you can see on your screen, we're going to start talking.
Yes, sir. I can see your screen, sir.
Yeah, so we're going to start talking about React. And what is React? React is a library there that can help you to create user interface. So when you want to build a site or a complex web application, that means the application that runs on the browser, using your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript directly is going to take a lot of time, and there's a lot of things you have to do when you need to reuse some stuff. So you have to start repeating yourself and so forth like that. But with React, it make it easier for us to be able to build the interface. For example, here now, look at this simple application that I have here, which is like application that can be used by any restaurant. They are selling stuff, so you can always go there and you order. This is just a simple stuff there to showcase what you can use React to do or to help you out with it. So if you look at it, the component that we have here, or the items, I'm coming, let me bring out my brush so that I can draw some stuff on the screen. So if you look at it, we have this box here. This is another box. This is another box. But if you look at all of them, they are the same. The difference between them is the content, the image, then the food you are trying to buy there. And there's a lot of things that is going on this page. For example, clicking on this button, as you can see, this card changed the way it is before. Again, to look at this side, the way it's looking like before is different from what we have now. Again, if I click on this X, as you can see, things are happening in different places. So you do something here, it happen to this box or to this element here, and again too, you do something here, it's happening at this place. You can do all this in using your JavaScript, but it's going to take you a lot of time, or you are going to have a lot of problem along the way when you are connecting all this thing together. Again too, the box you have here is still the same thing as the box we have here. So if you look at it, you see that you see the same thing, and at the same time I can increase the value from 2 to 3 to 4 and so forth like that. And whatever that is going on here, you are going to be seeing it happening live at this side too. So if I change this one to 4, you'll see now that it's showing 4 here, and the price that we have here too is showing. Then it's multiplied by 4, you get 28,800. Then everything added together, we have this 34. So if I increase this one, you see that the value is changing here, and whatever I'm doing here too, it's going to affect what is going on here. So this scene here now is using the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but we are not using it directly. We are using a library to simplify the process of putting all this in together. The same thing too, if I click on this confirm order, you see that another UI is coming up there like that, and if I click on start new, everything goes back to the normal way. So using your normal HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to build this in, it's going to work, but it might take you, or it's going to take you a lot of time to connect all this functionality together. But with the help of React now, we can do all these things easily without us spending a lot of time using JavaScript. No, all the JavaScript we talked about before, you create the HTML from the JavaScript page or from the file. You start selecting the HTML you have on the page, then you manipulate them by adding, removing, and do all those things. So with normal JavaScript, you have to do a lot of work yourself. But with React, what we just do is tell it what we want to do, and it's going to be the one that is going to place the necessary stuff on the page. So React is a UI library that can help you to build user interface. What is user interface? Anything that you present to the user to carry out the action that our application is all about. The application here is for people to buy food, but how is it going to buy the food? You are presenting a UI, or the user interface, what they can click on, or they can do some series of action to complete the necessary action they need to do on the site. So here we have the box where they can select the products or the food that they want to buy, and as you can see, we have a card. So inside this card, you see that we have the image, then on top of the image we have this button, and at the same time too, we have the price for it. But if you look at this entire card that we have here, you see the same thing as what I have here. It's just duplicate of the first one here. So React make it easy for us to build something like this easily without us spending a lot of time. If you want to do this in JavaScript yourself, you have to do a lot of work or series of work for you to differentiate them. But with React, we can create one of them here, then we now reuse it in different places that you need it. And this stuff here in React is what we call component. So in React, we have something known as component. So as you can see, React is based on component driven. So it makes it easier for you to build a user interface, and that user interface you can reuse it in different places that you need it there. And these are the things that we're going to be talking about under this React. So I've started with what is React. Later on, we're going to be talking about what is JSX. We're going to be talking about component, which is what I started with there too. So you can think of this entire stuff here as a component. So this is one component, but that component now, you can now reuse it. And what is component? A component is just a unit of user interface that have its own necessary actions and series of user elements that you want to display there to the user. And those elements can now be reused in different places that you need it. So we have it here. It's still the same thing as the element that we have at this place, and it's still the same thing here, and so forth like that. But we only have one of it, but that one of it, we are reusing it and we are changing the data that is inside it. But how do you do all those things? We are going to be talking about different topics under React, like the component, what is props, what is state, what is event handling, and so forth like that. We are going to see how to undo all this in using the React library there. So the first thing you need to know is what is React. React is a UI library that can help you to build user interface. That's what the React is all about. It's there to help you to build your user interface. Your user interface can be a web application. It can be a site that you can go to and people can get information from it and so forth like that. The Facebook you are seeing, it was built with using React. The X that you are seeing there, their web, it was built using React, because it make it easier for you to build a complex application faster compared to you using your normal HTML, CSS, and JavaScript here. Whatever you are going to be doing here is still all about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but the way you are going to be using it, it's kind of make it simple for us to combine the three of them together instead of us separating them there and start doing a lot of work behind the scene. But React, what we just need to do is to tell it what we want, and it's going to be the one that is going to take charge of everything that you want to display on the screen. But the first thing you need to do when you want to work with React, because you don't just install React anyhow like that, so there are things you need to have on your system before you start using React. It's not like the normal one we normally do, that you have your editor, then from your editor there, the next thing you do is start creating your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file. No, it doesn't work like that, because there's a lot of things that React is going to do for us before the results get to the browser. So you need to have some stuff installed on your system, and we started with some of them at one of our last class there when we talk about the Git. So you are going to be needing Git there to be installed on your system. But the major one, which I know that I've talked about too, is this Node.js. So you need to have Node.js on your system there, and in order for you to have it, what you just need to do is to go to Google and just type Node.js like this. So this first site that you are seeing here, that's where you are going to download the Node.js depending on the operating system you are using. So you can always click on this download so that it take you to the download page directly, or you click on this, they are still going to do the same thing. And once you click on it, it will take you to the download page, and by default it will detect the operating system you are using. So if you are using Windows, you are going to see Windows here, but you can always change it, because I'm on Mac OS right now, so that's why it's showing the Mac OS. But if I want to download for Windows, I can quickly switch. But on your system, since you are using Windows there, you see that it will be Windows here automatically like that. But anytime you want to do the installation, if you can't go through, like if it's not going, you can always call me. But below here, you are going to see where to download, because I'm currently on Mac, so I can even change it to Windows like that. And this is what you need, x64. So Windows, the x64. Almost all the Windows these days, they are x64. So you choose Windows, then from there you download this installer, and once the download installer is done, then you follow the prompt and you do the necessary installation. The first thing you need is this Node.js. And what is Node.js? I think I've really explained it a little bit too when we are dealing with our Git that time, or if I had not touched it. So what is Node.js? Node.js allow you to run JavaScript code outside of the browser. When you are dealing with your HTML, CSS and JavaScript, that JavaScript that you are creating there, you can only use it on the browser. You can't do any JavaScript code outside of the browser. So if you want to see the result of your JavaScript, you have to come to the browser before you can see the result. But this Node.js now allows us to do some stuff outside of the browser using JavaScript code. So it allows us to do some stuff outside of the browser, because React now is based on this Node.js, because there's some stuff it needs to do before it sends the results to the browser, because whatever you are going to be typing is not something that the browser will understand. So all those things you are going to be typing in your code, React needs to do all the necessary conversion, which is going to be coming from some tooling that we are going to be installing later on. They will do all the necessary transformation, and the result is what is now going to send down to the browser. So you need this node in order for all those tools to be able to work. And one of the tooling that we're going to be using for now is going to be this Vite here. So Vite.js. So this Vite.js is what we are going to use to set up our React project. But in order for you to be able to use this Vite, you need Node.js. So before this one can work, you need to have this software installed on your system first. So first, you come to Node.js, you come to their download page. Once you search it on Google, go to their page, then go to the download page, then your operating system will be selected by default. So down here, you are going to see the installer here. And once you click on installer, to download it on your system, and once you follow the prompt from the wizard there that is going to come outside, it will help you to do all the necessary installation. And once the installation is done, then you'll be able to go to this next step, which is by us setting up a React project. Just like when you are creating a site, you are going to be creating the project for that site, or whatever you are working on. There is going to be a dedicated folder for it, so that you can put all the necessary file about that project. So here we call it React project instead of us calling it normal HTML, CSS and JavaScript project. So here we always call it React project. And how do you set it up? So we need this Vite, which is the tooling that we can always use. And as you can see now, for you to use all this thing, you need to use terminal, which is the reason why we talked about terminal last time there, like that, because all these things, they are needed before you start doing all this stuff. So once you come to this Vite.js site, you are going to see all the necessary command for you to be able to create a React project. So under the first one, this is what we need, because the node I have, what is package manager, I'll be talking about all this one later on, but the one you need right now is this npm, which is the default one. Once you install node, this one is always part of it. This npm here is a node package manager that we use to manage, or that you can use to install any library that you want. And which library we want to use now? We want to use React, but React 2 doesn't work directly like that with the browser, so it needs to transform all the necessary stuff that the browser can understand. And that's the reason why we have this Vite. So the Vite is a tooling that is going to act as a bridge in between the browser and React there. So whatever we are typing in React, it will transform it into a proper code that the browser can understand there. And you're going to see it soon. And in order for you to be able to set it up, you just need to copy this command from here like that. So you can do it directly wherever you want to set your project. So what I'm going to do, we have these classes. So I'm going to create a folder, and I'm going to call it first. Let me use small letter. So first React like that as the name of the folder. Again, later on we're going to be having some other ones. So like maybe when I'm talking about the intermediate React there, so we're going to be having the second React like this. So second React, so that we're going to be using it to talk about different topics. But yeah, this is what or let me rename it. So this is going to be introduction, but you can call it anything you want. So intro React like that. So from here, when we're talking about that advanced topic, I'm going to rename this second folder. In order for this thing to be arranged properly, that's why I'm creating this second one. And inside this folder, that's where we're going to set up our React project. And if you still remember one of the videos that we did last time when we were talking about the Git, I talked about how you can move around in your terminal. So this thing is going to be necessary here, because whatever command whatever you want to do with this tooling, you need to be able to type this command. But where are you going to be typing this command? That is your terminal. And you can open your terminal directly in your operating system or from your VS Code. To open your terminal from VS Code, there is option to open it. So when you go to terminal, you see the option to be able to open your terminal directly from VS Code without you leaving. So once I click on it here, you see that it will open the terminal that I have on this system. The interface will be different, but it's still going to be the same command you are going to be typing there like that. So this is the terminal, and as you can see, the terminal is telling me right now that I'm inside classes. But don't forget, I need to enter the folder where I want to put my project. And if you still remember, when you want to move from one folder to another one, I told you that you are going to be using CD. So CD is what you use to change directory. And again, we have MV, which is what you use to move from move one directory or one file to another one like that. I told you about ls2, which is what you can use to see what is inside that your current folder. So I'm currently inside classes. So in order for me to see what is inside it, we can use ls, and as you can see, it's telling us that we have this intro React and we have the second React. But I want to enter this intro React. So how do you enter the intro React? We just need to use CD, then followed by the name of the folder that I want to enter. And once I press it, as you can see now, it's now showing intro React here. Before, it's only showing classes, but now it's telling us that we are inside. So anyone you see last year, that's a folder that you are currently working on. It's just as if you are here and you are creating file inside the folder. But we are not doing it from the interface, from the user interface here. We are doing it from the command line interface, which is the CLI. So CLI is just command line. So which means all the necessary action you are doing here, there is something that they are doing behind the scene. And those things they are doing behind the scene is what we want to be typing here directly. And one of the commands that we need in order for us to be able to create React is to set up this fit. So in order for us to be able to work with React, we need to set up this tooling, and from this tooling, we follow all the guides that is going to be showing to us in order for us to be able to set up the React project there. So, and what do we need? We just need to copy the command under this vit.dev there like that. So paste the command and you press enter. So it's going to ask you some series of questions, and that's what you follow. So the first question is, as you can see, it's going to install the package, which is the tooling that it will help us to set up the React there. So you just need to press Y. So this thing is asking you, do you want to proceed? And the bracket there is telling you that that's what you need to type yes, so that it will continue. And once it's done installing the tooling, then you start asking us about the project that we want to set up. So what is the name of the project? Because every project should always have a name. So if you are creating a site for your company or for anybody there, you need to have a name for them. As you can see, it's asking us for the project name. But since I'm currently in the folder, so I'm going to use this dots, but sometimes it did not accept, so I have to go back of that folder so that I can do it properly, because sometimes if you use dots, it might not accept. So this another thing is that it asks you which library. So vanilla here, that's your normal JavaScript code that we normally do before, but that's not what we want to do. What we want to do here is React. So what you do is to use your arrow up or down to move to any one of them. So it's only React that it can help you to set up. There's a lot of library that you can use to build your user interface, but the one we are learning right now is this React. So you go there and you press enter, then it will ask you what language do you want to use there like that. So what we want to use right now is this React router, but I'm not going to be doing this one. So we want to do a simple React first. So we want to do a simple React. We're not going to be adding this router. When we get to the routing page time, I'm going to come into this one. But the one you need right now is the JavaScript, because this is what you know. You know JavaScript already, but you want to use a React library now to be able to simplify the process of whatever you normally do in JavaScript. So we're going to pick JavaScript here. Then the next thing is asking you, do you want to install using npm? Yes, there like that. And from there, it will set up the project. So you wait for it. You see now a lot of things are going to be added inside this place. You can see all those questions is asking us. It has added all the necessary files in order for us to be able to develop our application. As you can see, the index.html that you know before is here, but now there's some series of other things that were added that I'm going to explain once the installation part is done there like that. So yeah, once you share your screen, I will put you to all the necessary stuff that needs to be installed, so you'll be able to, because now it's not about just listening alone. you have to be doing all this thing yourself and practice. If you don't practice, there's no way it will stick. And again, too, it looks nice when you are looking at it, but when you started doing it, that's where you started seeing some stuff going on there. That's, yeah. Let me pause while the stuff is still installing. So it will bring, just double click on it to open the stuff. It's done here too. So yeah, the scaffolding is done here too. So what you need to do is wait. Okay, maybe it's still, yeah. More info is because your PC is having this, so you run anyway. So yeah, so it will install Node.js. So just follow the prompt next. Once it's come, just next. You are not doing anything. You only just to click on next until it get to the final accept. Then next. So go there, type vit.js in the browser. Just type vit.js. Press enter, so it will give you the site. So it's a popular design, so it should be the one you're going to see first. What's wrong with the network? Okay, so that's it there. So click on it. So this vit is a tooling that is going to help us to set up React. I mentioned it. React is not something that browser understand. The browser doesn't understand React, because the way you are going to be typing the code, it's quite different from what the browser understand. So this vit is the one that will help us to transform all the React code into what the browser will understand. And in order for it to be able to do that, it needs to do it outside of the browser, and that's why we need Node.js, because all these tooling, they are based on Node. And what is Node? Node help us to run JavaScript code outside of the browser. So if you want to create a program and that program is based on JavaScript code, and you want to be able to run it without doing it from the browser, you need the Node.js. And Node.js is what you can always use later on. Even you can use it for mobile app too later on there, and at the same time too, you can use it for backend development, because it allows you to use JavaScript outside of the browser. But we are not using it for the backend or for the mobile. We are focusing on the front end, but we are going to be using React. And React is before you can use React, you need to have Node.js, and again you need to have the vit that will transform the React code into what the browser. So it will be the one that will act as a bridge in between our code and the browser. And later on, when you want to make it available to everybody, you are going to build it, and once you build it, it will transform all your code into the JavaScript code and the necessary HTML file that the browser can understand. So you write your code in React, then this vit will transform it to a proper JavaScript code that the browser can understand later on. Because if you look at this, my page, so if you look at my page back, my screen, if you switch back to my screen while this thing is still ongoing there, you see that in the project folder, here I have a series of files generated for me by this thing. So you can switch back. Let me switch back to my screen. We'll come back to your own later on. There, like that. So you can stop your screen for now while that one is still ongoing. Yeah. So if you look at this, my folder under this intro React there, you see that some series of folders have been created. So this thing is generated by vit. So it's the tooling that set up the necessary stuff that we need for us in our project. So when you are working with any React project, depending on the tooling you are using, so since you are going to be using vit a lot of time, there, like that. So this is a folder you always be facing there, like that. And what does all this file do there? So one of the file or one of the folder you are going to see there is this node modules, which I'm going to be explaining more better later on by the time we start adding our own library. So any library in Node there that you want to use, they needs to be downloaded to your system, because that's how it's going to know whatever the code. Because when you're talking about library, it's just somebody else's code that is typed somewhere that you're not downloading into your own project so that you can able to use it, instead of you coding everything from scratch yourself. But where is this going to save all those library to? All those library that you are downloading, where is it going to be saved to, so that your project can know about them later on? That's where this node modules comes in. So as you can see, all the React stuff that needs to be used and all the tooling that is going to do a lot of things for us later on, all of them has been downloaded here and they are saved inside this folder. And the reason why this folder is here again is that it's kind of make it easier for you to work with multiple projects with different version of that application or of that library that you are using in your project. So this node module now, since it's part of our project, so if you create another project later on and the version change, it will not be affecting the one you have here, because you are going to be creating a lot of projects and each one of them will be using the same thing, but sometimes the version can change, and when the version change there, it can bring some changes too. The way you do things before might be different from the way you do it now, but that doesn't mean all the projects you've created before they are dead. No, they are not dead. They still be working the way they are being created here. So these node modules make it easier for us to be able to encapsulate all the necessary library you have for your project. So since I'm inside this intro React, and that's where I install all the necessary stuff, so it's going to be under this node modules, and as you can see, these are the tooling that they are going to be working behind the scene for us to convert all our code we are going to be typing into the what the browser is going to understand later on. Some of them, they are not really useful to the browser, they are useful to your editor, whatever you are going to be doing, because some of them are there to format your code and do some stuff for you there. But this Vite is the tooling that are set up, so you don't need to be installing all this in one by one yourself. So the Vite that is using them knows how to call them the necessary time it needs to be called. What you just need to use is to use that npm, which is what I showed you here. So this npm is one that manages all the necessary stuff that needs to be downloaded. So when you install a particular library and that library is dependent on another library, this npm knows how to download all of them and is going to put it inside these node modules that we have here. So these node modules, you don't work with it. This is going to be managed by the tooling and the npm to install all the necessary library that you need. Where you are going to be working on is this public and this source here. So under this public, this is where you put all the necessary assets that you want to be accessible on the site. So anything you have under this public, so if you go to your site and you put slash whatever the name of that asset, they are going to be accessible there. So anything you want to be accessible through the URL, you are going to always be putting there. As you can see, like the fave icon and the icon for the site, they are here. So I can always go to slash the URL that this will generate later on, and I will be able to see all these files there like that. But the major place you are going to be working on is this source. So src is the source. This is where you are going to be doing all your coding in React, and these are the sample of React file here. So if you look at it, when you are creating your HTML file, you know it end with .html. So the HTML file end with .html there like that. But when you are talking about React application, we normally end it with this JSX. You can end it with JS, but you will not really get the advantage in your editor. All the editor that we have, they are kind of used to this JSX, because this extension is related to the language, or just like the extension that is inside React that you can use to combine your HTML, CSS and JavaScript code together. So when you are creating a React application later on there like that, you always end the extension as JSX. You can use JS, but I will not advise you to do that, because this your editor will be complaining later on when you are doing some stuff, because it will be thinking you are doing normal JavaScript, not the React JSX there. So any of the React file that you'll be creating later on will always be this JSX for now, because we are dealing with JavaScript. So JX is JavaScript, then the X there is the extension. What's that extension? I will be explaining it soon when we get to the part that I will be talking about JSX here. So what is JSX? I'm going to be talking about it soon when we get to that part. So under this source, this way you are going to have all your normal necessary HTML you are going to be having your CSS file, and you are going to be having your React file. So how do you know React file? They are always ending with this .jsx. Some of them, the olden days, you are going to be CJS, but now what you'll be seeing a lot is this JSX. So for your CSS too, as you can see, you can always separate your CSS too, and the tooling is going to combine all of them together later on, depending on how you include them. But when we get to the CSS part, I'm going to be talking about that. Another thing that you need to know there is this package.json. which is where you are going to be managing all the necessary package that you have in your program. So all the library that you are going to be installing, all the necessary package, you are going to see the information about them. As you can see right now, the React has been installed again to React DOM, which is the one that is going to connect to the browser, and the current version we are using here, as you can see, is version 19. So under the dependency, this is a major thing that you need when you are building your project, but later on, when you are building your project later on, but the dev dependency, these are what are really needed when you are developing your application. So these are packages or library that are needed for you to be able to develop your application, but these are the only major library that is needed when you build your application. So dependency is something that your application is depending on, even when it is in development mode or when it is in build, when you've already built it. So it's always going to be using what you have here. But when you're talking about this dev dependency, they are dependency or they are library that this your project is depending on, but they are mainly for development. So when you're running your project in development mode, those are the time that all this one will come in use there. But all this in here, they are just about the node in general, not to the React. But you need to be able to work with this file here, because this file will be getting updated based on the packages or the library that you are adding to your project. So this is where it records everything. What are the dependencies you are using, the version of it, so forth like that. So you are going to see everything inside this file. So the name of your project, by default, it will pick the name of the project folder that you are working on. Type of the project, so which is private. You have the version of the project, so you can always, as you can see, just like all this library, they are increasing their own based on what they are doing. You too, you can always doing this, but most of the private library, you don't really see all this thing being increased, but you can always be changing it based on the changes you have to your application. And under this script, these are some of the commands you want to type from your terminal there like that. So instead of us using this vit build here, we can just use this npm run build or npm run lint and so forth like that. So if you go back to that vit again, you see that they are using this npm. So if you want to use npm too to run some of your command, because there's a lot of command you can set up yourself later on here. So instead of you typing all those long command, you create a name for them, and once you call that command from npm, it will come here and run the necessary command. And one of the command that we need here is this def, because this is what you are going to be running, you are going to be using to run your application, so that you can see the results. Right now it's running, because when it was done with the installation, I think it started with the stuff there like that. So let me bring my terminal back up again, and let me close this one. And as you can see, after the stuff is done, as you can see here, it said it's starting server, which is your go live or your live server. So here we don't use live server again. This tooling that we have, this vit, it comes with its own server, because it understands the project. It needs to transform all the React code into what the browser can understand first, before the browser will now pick it up. And how do we do it? So in order for you to start your own server too, you can just use npm run dev. It has already run it, so that's the reason why it's showing here. But you can always stop the server by using the Ctrl+C there. So the server has stopped now. But now, if you want to run it yourself, we just need to use npm run, then followed by the script name. So these are the script name, but this is what they are going to do. So anytime you call npm run dev, it will come here, then perform whatever you have in front of it. So if you want to build this your project now, you want to make it available, or you want to deploy it, what you need to use is to run npm build. So npm run build, then it will build your project so that you can have all the necessary HTML. So it will transform everything you have here into what you can always deploy and everybody can see there like that. And if you want to preview the you want to preview the build, you can always use this, but we don't need it right now. What we need is this dev, which is one that is going to run the development build for us. And why do we need dev? Is because when you make any changes, just like our live server, you want to see the changes on the browser instantly, so which is the live reload. So once you make any changes in your code, you'll be able to see the changes on your browser. So in order for you to run it, what we just need to do is to come down here and use our dev like this. So npm run dev is to start, and as you can see, it's fast. So in order for you to see it, so this is the URL that you need to follow. So localhost, then this port, which is this 5173. So in order for me to see the result now, I just need to go to the browser, type the stuff. So localhost, then 57 what is that? So it is this 51 73 like this. So press enter, and as you can see, our application is running. So now application is running. So now after typing it in the URL, as you can see, our application is running with this basic stuff that the tooling is using. So this is our application here, and as you can see, I can click on this one here, this button, and it's increasing this count. How does this thing possible? So you are going to see everything, and this thing is coming from here, which is this app.jsx. So this is the application or the React file now. So we are inside React, and if you look at everything that is going on here, it looks like it's doing some magic. No magic here. This is React code. But what is going on here? What does this say mean here? I'm going to be explaining each one of them one by one. No, I told you in React, it is based on the concept of component. And what is component? A component is a reusable block of code, UI codes that you have here. For example, here now, we can think of this as a component. And inside this component, it have all the necessary information, like the image, it have the title there, or it have the category, it have the name of the food, it have the price, and again too, it have this button that you can use to carry out the action there like that. So this block here, we can call it component, and this component in React is just a function that return whatever you want to display on the screen. So in React, if component is just a reusable block of code, which is your function that you can use in different places on the page there. And that's the reason why you see that this one here is named as a app. Yes, and if you look at it, it's a function. So when you're talking about component in general in React, a component is just a reusable block of pieces of UI that you are trying to present on the screen. And in order for you to create a component, you are going to be using what we call the functional component, because we have different way of creating component. We have the class component and we have functional, but these days nobody use class again. That's old React. These days we are using what is called function component. And in order for you to create a component, is just by you creating your function, then you give it the name. So whatever you give it there, this is the name of your component, because this is what you are going to be using later on anytime you need to call it there. But yeah, this one has already been called already for us. So whatever you put inside this app, those are the stuff it's going to display on the screen. And where is this thing being called from? There's some setup that have been done for us by this fit. One of them is inside this HTML. So if you look at the entire this HTML, as you can see, we have this div. This is where React is going to put all this code that we're going to be typing. So inside the HTML, instead of you typing them in the HTML yourself, no, you are not going to be doing that. React will be the one that is going to put all the necessary code inside this place. But how is it React going to do all this work? As you can see, this script here, which is the way of you connecting to your JavaScript, is going to this main.jsx here. So this main.jsx here, what's wrong with this thing? Let me use coming, edit, undo, I'm coming. Yeah, so this HTML now, because the browser, the only thing the browser understand is your HTML file. When you are dealing with yourself, normally you create your HTML file, then you connect it to the JavaScript by using this script. Then inside your body, you put all the necessary HTML code that you want to show. But here now, we don't put any HTML code inside the HTML. Everything is going to come from React. And this is where the connection of React or whatever code that is going to be generated later on is coming from. So this main.jsx, which is this file there, is the one that is doing the connection between React and our HTML file. As you can see here, you already know this get element by ID, which is a way of us locating any file on a page. So it will look for this div, and once you get this div, then all the necessary React code, they are going to do the conversion of all the necessary code that we're going to generate later on. Then everything will be put inside this div. You are not the one that will be doing that now. It will be the React that is going to undo all this action behind the scene. Your own now is to start working from this app. And as you can see, this our app now is being called here. So this app is coming from this app.gss here, and this one is what we call component here. Component is a reusable block of UI pieces that you can always reuse in different places. So every time you are going to reuse all of them, some of them you just use it once, but in React everything is based on component, and inside your component you are going to return the JSS code. And what is JSS code? I'll be explaining it soon. Yes. So how do we create a component? So in React, to create a component, what you do there is to create a function. So when you're creating a function, it can be this type of function like this. So this is going to be my component 1 like this. So this is component 1, but it's not component yet. In order for it to be component, you need to return something that can be displayed on the screen there. But for now, we just return 2 plus 2 like that. So another way of creating component is by using the arrow function that you know, because you know there are different way of creating function in JavaScript. This is one way of creating component. Another way is by doing it like this. So component 2 by using your arrow like this. Or let me just return, this is a hello world from component 2, and for this one I'm going to do hello world from component 1. So we just created our component right now, but they are not going to work yet. So save this thing. We are not going to see anything on the screen. So going back to the page, as you can see, nothing is showing. Why? Is because the reason it's not showing is because the only thing we are showing is just this app. So if you go back into this main.gss, as you can see, the only thing it can find here is this app.gss. So which means anything you want to show on the screen have to be inside this app.gss, or you remove this one or you put your own. But we are not going to be removing this one. We leave it like this. Everything we want to do, they are going to come from this side. But now I'm going to comment out all this one so that we can start working on our own. So let me just comment everything out, save, and go back to the screen. And as you can see, it said it cannot do what I'm trying to do because I'm not returning anything yet. But what did I want to return? Yeah, I want to return this my component. I want to render this component. So in React, we have something known as a component. So you have your component. But when you create your component, this component is not just going to appear on the screen like this. It's not just going to appear. You need to talk to the React where you want this your component to appear, and that's what we call render. So when you talk about render, it means where did you want this your UI to appear. So where this component you are creating here, where did you want it to appear? I want it to appear inside this my app here. But how do you use it? As you can see, going back into this main, look how the app is being used. The same thing is what you are going to be doing here. So when you create your component, it's not going to appear. You need to use it. So this our app is being used here. So the same thing too, these two components we created down here, we want to use them inside this place. And in order for us to be able to use it, we just need to do it as if you are calling normal HTML code. So to render or to show your UI on the screen, you need to render that your component, which is to display the component on the screen. And in order for you to do that, you mention the name of your component just like the way you are calling HTML code. So just like the way you normally call your HTML code, that is the same way you are going to be calling your component. So it can be called in this way or it can be called in this way. So any one of them is going to work. But I'm going to talk more about the time you are going to be using this and the time you are going to be using it. But for now, both of them are going to do the same thing. But I'm going to comment one of them out and now save the code. Go back to the screen. Can you see? We now have the text coming out on the screen. So what is component? A component is a reusable block of UI elements that you want to show on the screen, and you can always reuse it. And what did I mean by reuse? So I can duplicate this component multiple times, and by the time you get to the screen, you are going to see that we have it like that. So but right now it's not showing the way it's supposed to because I need to use this. Let me group everything inside div like this so that I'll talk about this one later on. So save, go to the page, and you can see all of them. They are appearing on the screen. So how many times did I call it? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the reason why it's appearing on the screen 4 times. So when you're talking about component, a component is a function that returns whatever you want to show on the UI. So whatever you return here, That's what you want to showcase on the screen. But what are you going to be returning? So what are you going to be returning? There are different things that you can return. So there are different things that you can return. One of the things you can return is the React element. Another thing you can return is this JSX. So JSX expression like this. So again, we have JSX elements or React element, anyone you want to. So I'm going to call it this JSX element. So these are the different things that you can return. So in front of this return here, these are different things that you can always return. So when you are creating your component, in front of this return, what you can return back can be this JSX element or it can be this JSX expression. And what is JSX element? You can think of this as just all your normal HTML that you are used to. So when you are talking about JSX element, they are just your normal HTML elements that you are used to, but technically they are not HTML. So they are not HTML. They are called JSX element, because even though to you it looks like the HTML you used to type in your, you like a tag you normally type, but they are not. This is just advanced HTML there like that. So it looks like HTML, but technically it's not HTML. We call them JSX element. When you are dealing with your normal HTML, they are known as tag, but here they are known as JSX element. And all the JSX element are just your normal HTML element that you know, but the way you interact with them is different. It's not like your normal HTML that you are going to be seeing later on. So you can always use your H1, H2, the span, and so forth like that. For example, here now, instead of me just returning text that is here, what we can just do here is to create H1 like this. Then inside the H1, I can now put whatever text that I want. So hello word. So from component 1. So save it, go back to the screen, and you see that we have the same result. But now look at it, the H1 is displaying like normal H1. So if you inspect the code, if you inspect the code there like that, you see that in your browser. Can you see what is coming out in the browser? This is the div that you are seeing from the HTML. So this div that we have here is still the same thing here, and the React along with this Vite has bundled all the necessary code that we type from here, then send everything down inside this div. And as you can see, what you are seeing on the screen is not the same thing as what we type here. So all this one here, they are not going to be there again on the browser. The Vite will transform only what you return here. So whatever you return here, those are the only thing that will get to the browser, and those are the elements you are going to see on the screen there. So in React, everything is based on the concept of component. So in React, everything is based on the concept of component, and you can always create your component by using this function keyword, then followed by the name. And another rules that you need to know is that all your component needs to start with capital letter. So when you are creating component, as you can see, my C here is capital letter, my C here too is capital letter. If you look at this app too, you see that it starts with capital letter. So when you are creating a component in React, it has to start with capital letter, because that's how it's going to know that it's a component, not normal function. So when you are creating a component, the first thing is create your function, then come up with the name that you want to use. For example, this is going to be a form box like this. So this is the name of my component, and that's the name I'm going to be using to call it down. Then inside this your component, you are going to return whatever you want to display. For example, here inside this my component now, it has form. Inside the form, it has input, and inside it again, it has button. So save, go back to the page. You are not going to see anything at all, because the component is not being used yet. You are just creating the component. So the first thing, you create the component. Then when you are done creating the component, then where you want it to show there, you are going to render it. So what I call render means you want to make this your component to appear on the screen. That's what we call render. We always use render. So when you say you are rendering your component, what you are saying is that you are making this your component to be available to the screen there. And where do you want to put it? So we want to put it inside this our app. So where do you want it to appear? So it can appear in between these two, or it can be here, or it can be here. Anywhere you want to place it, you go there, then you render the component. How do you render it? You call it like your normal HTML file. So you can always call it in this way, or you call it in this way like this. but there is a difference between this and this one. There is time you are going to be using this, and there is time you are going to be using this. But for now, I will always be going with this format there like that. So save it and go to the page. You see that we now have form at the top. Because we place it at the top here, that's the reason why it's showing at the top. If you want it to be at the bottom, then that means you need to place it at the bottom of other components. So save, you see that now it's at the bottom. Wherever you want it to show, that's where you are going to render. So we are rendering our component. So here we are rendering our component here. So rendering means you are making the component to show on the screen. And the reason it was able to show on the screen is because the main file here is showing our app too. So assuming this one is not showing the app and you save it, you will not see anything on the screen again. The reason it's showing is because the file that is connected to the HTML is showing this our app. And inside the app, we can, so whatever you now place inside the app, they are always going to appear on the screen. So whatever you place here is what you are going to see on the screen. Since we have the app, then we can place things that we want to show to the user there like that. So React is a UI library that helps us to build user interface using components, and inside your component you are going to be returning JSX element or JSX expression. And we've already talked about how you can create your component. To create a component, you create a function, you name it whatever you want, but the name will start with capital letter there like that. As you can see, each one of them, they are starting with capital letter. Then if you have multiple words, you can always do it in this way. As you can see, multiple word, each starting point of the word will be a capital letter. So form, that's one word. Box, another word. Combining them together, we have form box. So the starting point of each one of them is always going to be capital letter like this. And whatever you want to show on the UI, that's what you are going to return. So this return, whatever you return there, that is the pieces of the UI that you want to show on the screen. So for this site here, the UI that is showing here is that this thing is returning image. Inside that component is returning button. Inside that component is returning all this text and so forth like that. The same thing with this one too. So this component here, inside it is returning this text, is returning this image, and is returning this text. But here, for simplicity's sake, I'm returning only text. Here I'm returning h1 with the text inside it. But here now I'm returning more by returning form. But inside the form we have input and we have button. And as you can see, we can always group our UI into their own compartment, which is what we call component. And anywhere you need it, you just call it again. So if I want to use this form box in different places now, I can duplicate it, move another one up here, go back to the page. You see that another copy is going to be here. We only have it once. So this is one copy, this is another copy. And whatever you are doing here, there's no way to be affecting what you are typing here because they are different, but they are coming from the same source. Even though they have their own lifespan, but they are coming from the same spot, from the same box here, which is the component. So we are creating it once, but we are reusing it multiple times. So I have it here and I have it here. Whatever you are doing with this one will not affect this one, even though we are creating it from the same source here. And this is one of the beautifulness of this React there, because it makes it easier for us to have a reusable block of code or a reusable block of UI that we can reuse in different places without them affecting each other there. Even though later on some of them you want them to be communicated with each other, but you are going to see how to handle them. So in React, what you are going to be doing there is to create a component. Then the component are going to be reused inside each other to form the user interface that you want. So just like the way we have this one, so if you look at it on the page there like that, we have this entire, you can think of this is our app. So this is our app. So inside the app we have a component that is grouping all this one together. So we have another component which is all about this. So inside this place too, you have a component which is at this edge there, and you have a component that is holding all this one together. And again too, you now have another component which is this, but this single component here is now being reused because if you look at it, they are the same. So we create it once, then anywhere we need it, we just call it the number of time that we want. But how do we change the data inside it? You are going to be seeing how to do all those one when we get to that part, which is going to be talking about props later on. But before I get into props, I want to talk about this JSX more there like that. So before I get to that, I want to talk about the JSX. I've already explained what is JSX element. So what is JSX element? These are just your normal HTML code that are known, but technically they are not HTML. What they are here is they are called JSX element because the way you represent them is quite different. For example, here, if you want to type a class in your normal attribute class, what you normally do is this, but you cannot do it like this. This is wrong. This is not how you do it. So here, what we use is class name. By the time we get to the CSS part, I'm going to be talking about this in more. As you can see, even though it looks like your normal HTML, but here, can you see what is the way we type it? In your normal HTML, when you want to type class, what you do is this. So this is how you do it in your normal HTML. But when you are doing it in React, this is how you do it. So that's the reason why what you are having here, even though it looks like your HTML code, is not HTML. This is JSX element. To you, it is an input element, but here we don't call it like that. It is JSX element. Even though later on you can be calling it input element, but behind the scene, this is a JavaScript stuff that is going to get converted later on through the Vite. So Vite will do all the necessary conversion so that the browser will be able to pick them up. So look at it right now. What I type is class name, and let me just put Abdul Rakib here like that. So look at what I type, class name, then I put that this Abdul Rakib. Now let me go to the page and let us go and check the code. By the time you get to the browser, you see that what you are going to be seeing is different to what is showing. So if I go to the form, can you see what is showing now? Can you see what is that showing? It's showing class. What we type is class name, but by the time you get to the browser, it's showing class. This is the work of Vite and React behind the scene. So whatever you are doing here is all about HTML. The Vite that install all this necessary tooling for us, we transform all this code into what the browser can understand. Your own is now to give it what you want to show on the screen, and it's going to do all the necessary conversion later on. And I'm going to be showing you different between the HTML tag and the normal JSX element. So where you need to use, one of them is this. So we don't use class here. You don't type class. What you type is class name. But React or the tooling understand whatever they need to do, and they will send the necessary code to the browser there like that. So that's what JSX element is. All JSX element, they are just your normal HTML element, you know, but some of them they behave separately. Like the way you supply some stuff to them is not the same way you do it when you are dealing with React. Again, too, all those self-closing one, normally when you are dealing with HTML, you don't need to put this slash there. It will still work, but here it will not work. You cannot do it like this, so it will not work. This is another thing. So it's not HTML. So if you come here, if you want to use that, you can always do it like this and it will still work. As you can see, no problem here. It will work. You can pass every other thing. But when you are dealing with React code, it will not work like that. So in React code, it doesn't work like that. This file, let me don't save. So in React, this is not the way we did it. Every element, you must always close it. Whether it's self-close, if it is self-closing, you have to use this. You can't just type like this. So those are the rules you need to know when you are dealing with a self-closing tag. Or self-closing tag, you must always put this slash there. It must be there. If it is not self-closing tag, then you have to open and close. So you have to open and close it like this. So all this one, they are known as JSX elements. So it can be your image tag, it can be your input tag, it can be the form tag, it can be the span tag, and so forth like that. All of them, you can always use them. Now some of them, the way you pass the attribute, it's quite different. Again, too, the attribute can be dynamic, which is something you are going to be seeing later on, which is under this JSX expression. So when you're talking about JSX expression, these are just JavaScript expression. And what is JavaScript expression? Is just anything that can return value. Anything that can return value, they are known as JavaScript expression. For example, 3 plus 3 here is an expression because you are getting results. Anything that do calculation and return back the result for you, that's what we call JSX expression, which is the same thing as JavaScript expression. JSX is just an extension over JavaScript. So JS is still the same thing as JavaScript. The X there means extension. So which means it's extending your JavaScript. It's giving you more functionality. The way you used to do something in JavaScript is extending it so that you can do it in a more good way, or in a way that is going to be easier. No, in JavaScript you cannot just type things like this. You can't type your HTML like this. Before you can create HTML code, you either use your inner HTML that is going to transform it for you, or you start using create element that we normally do before. You use create element, then from there you pass the element you want to create. But yeah, you don't need to be doing that. Just specify the element directly. React knows how to take care of everything for you behind the scene using this JSX, and that's the JSX element. But right now we are talking about the expression, and the same thing too. Down to it follow the JavaScript code. So anything that return value, they are known as expression. For example, if I set a value, as you can see, this one too is returning, but we don't normally use all this. This is statement, even though it's acting like expression too, but it's a statement. There are like that. So for example, let me do it properly. So I have this let. So let me type let a to be 5. So now if I call a, as you can see, the a is giving me 5. So this a that you are calling here is expression because it's returning back a value back to you. So all these things too can be used in your code here. So how do you now use it as a JSX expression? So all the expression, they goes inside curly brace. So when you are creating expression, you have to put it inside curly brace before it will treat it. So when you are inside your JSX element, so anytime you are inside your JSX element and you want to use expression, those expressions have to be inside this curly brace here. For example, 2 plus 2. Yeah. So by the time the React sees this, what it will do is that it will transform everything you have here first. It will interpret it, which is going to be 4. Then that result you have here is what is now going to replace all this thing with. That's what we call the expression there, like that. So going back to the page there, you're going to see that we are having the value. As you can see, what is showing on the screen is showing 4. Even though what I type here is 2 plus 2. But once it's inside this curly brace, what React will do is that it will interpret it first. Then the result is getting from here, that's what is going to display on this screen. And some of the expression you can always use is your string that you know already. So you can always use your string, like means test, like this, testing, anything in your quotes. No, those are the. So again, it can be single quotes. What's wrong with my keyboard? Can be single quote, which is going to be testing like this, or it can be your backtick, any one of them you want to use. So you can always put all this expression inside your curly brace. So this curly brace is React stuff there. So whatever you put inside the curly brace, it will translate it first. The result you get back is what is now going to display on the screen. Again too, it can help you with number. So any number you use to, you can always type them. That one if you want to do mathematics with them. But if they are not doing any JavaScript code, you can always type them directly. So like this string down, assuming you are not doing anything that needs to do with calculation, as you can see, you can always type them directly. But if you need to do some calculation with them first, then you have to put it inside curly brace. And whenever you are doing inside curly brace, the result is what React is going to use there, like that. So React can help you to this. But there's a problem with the way it works with some values. So when you display your normal number, as you can see here, it will work the way it's supposed to be. So 4, you get to the 2 here is not expression. This is just your normal text that you displayed here. But this is the expression. It evaluates it and it gives you the result. For example, here I can do something else like this. But what if I do 2 is greater than 2? Will it give us the result that we're expecting? So save, go back to the screen. As you can see, there like that. Nothing is showing. So nothing is showing. This is what I want to explain next. The way it interprets some value is quite different from each other. So when it is string that you are working with, so if it is string that you are working with like this, it's going to come outside the way you type it. As you can see, testing. So if it is string, which is what I explained here, it's going to come outside the way you type it. But this is just wasting of stuff because it's not doing anything. It's not dynamic. If it is dynamic, that's why you'll be doing that. But I can actually type it directly like this on 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything will still show. The only time you'll be using this curly brace is when the data is dynamic. And when is data going to be dynamic? Imagine we have a variable here which I have name, and the name is Abdulrakib. So what if you want to display this data here inside this place? That's where the JSX expression comes in. So here now, if I just put h2 here and I say my name is name. So once you save the code and you go to the page, can you see what is now displaying? it did not translate it. Why is it not translating it? Because you are typing a normal text. So if you want React to translate this thing as a variable that you have in your component there, then you need to wrap it in this curly brace. Anything you put in the curly brace, it will interpret them as a normal JavaScript code. And since you put a name here, it will look for that name inside this component, and since it can find it here, then it will replace it with the correct content that we have there. So once I go to the page, as you can see now, it's now showing Abdulrakib, and this is what we call expression here. So it will interpret everything you have in the curly brace. The result is what is going to show on the screen. So it doesn't need to be this. I can just say username. So instead of it to be this, I can call it username as my variable. Then down here, I will just change it to username like this. So save, go back to the page. As you can see, it's still going to be the same thing. Doesn't matter. The value is to transform it, and that value is what is going to show to the user. But the value you are putting here, the way React show them is depending on the type of the data you have there. So if it is string, they are going to come outside the way you type them. As you can see, I type Abdulrakib here, it's coming out as Abdulrakib on the string, on the screen there, like that. The same thing too, counter is going to be 5. If it is number 2, it's going to come outside the way you type it. So counter is this. So save. As you can see, I want to transform whatever stuff you are putting inside the counter. So we need to put it in the curly brace. And once we get to the screen, as you can see, it's showing 5 on the screen there like that. So we have 5 coming out on the screen, and I can change it to another value. So 51. Saved it again. You see that I'm getting the changes instantly. That's the reason why we are using the dev. So we are using that npm run dev so that you can always see the changes instantly. Once you make the changes and you go back to your browser, you see the changes instantly there like that. So it can show number. The way you type your number, that's the same way it's going to show the number. But there's a problem with Boolean. When you are dealing with React, in your expression, JavaScript doesn't show it. So it doesn't show, or React doesn't show it at all. So it doesn't know how to display. So it doesn't know how to display. What you can do is to use it as expression and do some stuff. But you can't just come here and say you want to see the Boolean value. So it will not show. So React will not display Boolean value for you. As you can see, it's not showing. So when it is string, it will show it. If it is a number, it will show it. But if it is Boolean, you will never see it. Don't forget the Boolean is either be true or false here. But React will never show it. It doesn't show it on the screen. So by the time you get to the screen, what it will turn into is empty string. Anytime you are trying to show true, or which is Boolean, so anytime you are trying to show Boolean true or false, what you get back is just empty string on the screen. So anytime you are dealing with Boolean, so if the value you want to, it will never show it. What you get on the screen is just this empty string, and that's the reason why you are not seeing anything. So which means on the screen you cannot render, you cannot show true or false. The way you can do it is by asking question, by doing it in this way. So if it is true, you want to display true, or if it is false, you want to display false. We've talked about all this in normal JavaScript. This is your conditional expression, which is a way of saying something like this. So you have condition. So if the condition is true, do this. If true, then do that if it is false. That's what we are doing on that line. Because this thing will return a value. It will either return this or return this. So this is how you can return true or false value. You cannot just pass Boolean. If you pass Boolean, React is going to convert it to this empty string. If it is normal string, you are going to get it the way you type it. If it is normal number, you are going to get it the way you type it when you are using it in expression. But if it is Boolean, when you are using it in the expression, if you use any of these true or false, what you get back is just empty string. So in order for you to be able to use it, then you have to do it in this way yourself. So if it is login, as you can see now, it will either be true now or false based on the condition we have here. So you cannot use Boolean inside your expression. It doesn't show on the screen. You only use it to derive what you want to display, but you cannot use it as part of the value that you want to show on the screen. So any Boolean you pass here, so if you pass true, you will never see it on the screen. What you see it is just empty space. As you can see here, empty space is what you are going to see, because behind the scene, the React will convert it to this empty string that is showing. Another thing is array. So another thing that React can help you to display on the screen is array. So we can have names, but the way it display it too is different. So scores. So the way it's displayed it too is different. So when you have array, I will talk more about this one when we get to the list. There like that. So when you have array and you put it on the screen in your expression, I don't need to do all this one. So if you put array in the expression like this, the what you are going to get back to is different. So in JavaScript or in React rather, so when you have array of values, so when you have an array of value in this way, this is what you are going to get on the screen. Because everything you are typing, it will convert all of them to string. So anything you are typing, even all this one to this number, by the time you get to the screen, what you just get is just each one of them has already been converted to string. So if you type 1, it will just convert it to string, even though this is what you type. If you type 2 in your expression, by the time you get to the browser, this is what you see. You are not seeing the normal number. What you are seeing is a string. So when you type boolean, this true or false will get converted to this empty string. When you are dealing with array, so the entire array here will just get converted like this. So whatever you have in your array, it will just convert it to string by separating them with comma like that. So for example, like array of names. So when I have this array of name, this is what you are going to see on the screen. Even though this is your code, but if you pass array directly, this is how it's going to come outside. For example here, let me just come up here. So const names is just going to be this like that. So let me put this in this way. So if you just pass score in this way, save, go back to the page, you see that, can you see, it will join all of them together. It will join all of them together as normal text like that. The same thing too, if I do it with names like this, by the time you get to the screen, as you can see, it will join all of them together. So you cannot just put your array on the screen like that, but we have the way we normally deal with all this thing. By the time we start in the next class properly, today is just like introduction to this thing. In the next class, I'm going to set up another project, then we start doing some basic stuff there like that. But you need to know when you're dealing with React based on component. React is based on component. And what is component? A component is just a block of reusable code that you want to showcase on the user, which is you showcase on the screen, which is what we call the UI. So whatever you are displaying on the screen is known as the UI, and React uses the component to create reusable self-contained piece of a UI element. And what do we call it? Self-contained. Self-contained means that it can have, as you can see, this particular component now, it have these variables, this another variable, this another variable, this another variable, and this another variable. But each one of them here, if I create multiple components of this, so if I render multiple of it, each one of them are going to have their own copy of name, username. The other one too is going to, so for example here now, this form box I have here and this form box I have here, this one will have its own copy, this one too will have its own copy, and whatever you are doing with this one later on will not affect what you are doing here, even though they are coming from the same place. But anytime you are calling this your component, each one of them are going to create their own copy, and that's what we call it the self-contained. But because each one of them are contained in their own block, and whatever you are doing with one particular block will not affect any other block, even though sometimes you want it to happen. But there is a way we normally do it by using something known as props or state and so forth like that. When we get to state and props in the next class, you are going to see how all this thing works. But in React, it is based on component, and in order for you to create a component, you just create a function, and that your function is going to either return JSX element or is going to return JSX expression. What is JSX element? JSX element is just normal HTML element that you are used to, like your H1, H2, as you can see all of them here. The button, the P tag, all of them here, they are known as JSX element. This is another JSX element. This is JSX element. This is JSX element. This is JSX element. And whatever you are returning here is what you want to show on the screen. But it's not only JSX element that we have. We have JSX expression. JSX expression is just normal JavaScript expression that return value. Expression is just anything that return value after computation. Once it's done with the computation, it return back a value. It is known as expression. But how do you use it in JavaScript or in React rather? So we have the curly brace. Inside this curly brace, that's where you are going to put whatever you want your React to interpret first before it gets to the page. So before you get to the page, you need to interpret all the JavaScript code that you put it. Once you put curly brace, everything you have inside curly brace, they are JavaScript code. Anything you know about JavaScript, the expression is what you always put here, just like 2 plus 2. So since you see that this is JavaScript code, it will interpret it first, and the result is what you are going to see on the screen, which is what we have this for here. But you can always type them directly, but it's not every time the data you want to showcase on the screen are something you already know at hand. Some of them, they have to come from a variable. Some of them, they have to come from the API, but they are still going to be saved in a variable. So how do you transform this your variable, whatever value that is here, into what can be shown on the screen? You need to use this curly brace, which is going to be the expression. To translate everything you have there, then the result will be shown here. But some of the value that you want to show on the screen, it have the way the React handle them. So when you're dealing with number, it's going to show the way you type it. If it is text, it will show the way you type it. But if you are dealing with Boolean doesn't show on the screen. Like this one now, 2 greater than 12 will either be true or false, which is going to be false. But if you check the screen now, nothing like that, because React doesn't display true or false. Anytime something return true and false inside this your curly brace, what you get back is just this empty string. So if you want to use it to display something, you have to use the condition there by putting this conditional statement. So you ask, is it true or false? If it is true, it will do whatever you have here. But if it is false, it will do whatever you have here. For example, we want to say user, we can just say welcome Abdulrakib like this. So what I just want to do is welcome Abdulrakib. But this one we just said you are not logging. So what you are going to get here is depending on this value. So if this value is true, it's going to display this one. But if the value is false, then it's going to display this one. And once this thing is saved down and go to the screen, you see what it's showing. It said welcome Abdulrakib like that. But if I go up here and change the value to false, you see that what you are going to see now, you are not logged in. And this is what we are going to be using a lot later on to showcase different UI. As you can see from this application, as you can see, when you don't have anything added, look at what is showing. But once I click on this, as you can see, something else is showing here. So there are 2 UI here. The one is going to show is depending on whether you've already added this item to cart or not. So if you added the item to cart, show this one. But if not added item to cart, then show this one. So this is one component on its own. This is another component. But the one you are going to show is depending on whether something has already happened or not. And how you're going to be doing that, you are going to be using all these conditional statements to render whatever you want to show on the screen there like that. And for you to create your component, you can use this functional component by using function, or you can use the arrow one. And the reason I have not been using this one is because it will not work until I move it up. Because when you're using this one, it has to be up of wherever you want to use it. So you cannot put something down here and you're not using it up. It doesn't work with arrow. But with normal function, it works. And that's why I've been using all this one. So if I try to use component 2, it will not work because I'm calling it after you are calling something, but it has not yet been defined. So it doesn't work with normal function. So if you go back to the page there like that, so it does nothing like I want like that. So but I don't like to do it in this way, but I always love to use this particular function there like that. But you can always create your component in this way by using the arrow function, or by using this, or let me even use it down here. So inside this place, because you can always just like what we did at the top, one component can always be used inside another component. So our form box component is being used inside the app component. This our app component too is being used inside this our main here, because this is where everything is being connected. So inside this main.jsx, this is where React is being connected to our HTML there like that, which is coming from this root, which is a thing that are being installed. So all this thing, they are part of what we installed. It's coming from this React DOM. So everything has been installed, the necessary stuff. We are going to be using things from React later on. We are not using some of them, but there's a lot of things going on behind the scene already. This is the one that is connecting to our page, which is what we are doing here. As you can see, React DOM is the one that make it possible to take all our code and connect it to the HTML file. So whatever you are creating here, it will transform them to a proper HTML code. But how does it is by using component. So what you are going to be using is component, and inside the component, whatever you return inside it, That's what is going to showcase to the user there like that. So I'm going to be stopping here today. In the next class there, I'm going to be talking properly on the component. Again, I'm going to be talking properly what is props. How can you now make your component to behave in different way? Because if you look at it here now, the same component I have here like that is the same component here, but the text here is not the same text here. This component, this is one component here, but it's not being reused in different places, but the content there are different. How is it possible that we have one component but we are reusing it and the data is changing? So you are going to learn about that when we get to the props. So props is what you are going to be using to make one component to behave in different ways anywhere you are using it. So for this one is showing this image, for this one is showing this image, for this one is showing this image. So through props now, you can send information down to your component so that it can behave the way you want that particular component to be. So you have one, but you can always talk to them to do. And after that, we are going to talk about events and states. So because the event is what you are going to be using to attach event to your element to perform a particular task. So event on this button, once you click, is to open this modal like that. So event on this one is when you click is to add to the order. Event of this one is to increase. Event of this one is to decrease the value, and so forth like that. So how do you add event to your element? The way we normally do it in your normal JavaScript will be different from the way we do it, because here it makes things simple to work with. So when you're dealing with your normal JavaScript code, for you to be able to create something like this, there's a lot of code you have to type to do what I just did here, because you're not going to be typing the HTML code like this. You are going to be using document or create element, which is going to create the form. Then from there, you create this one. You add all the necessary attributes on it. Again, you create this, then you now be adding them to your form one by one. But with React, we don't need to do that. We just describe what we want to show on the screen. What are we are describing here? We want to show form. Then inside the form, I want to have input. Again, too, I want to have the content that is inside this component. I want to display image. I want to display P. I want to display H2. Then there's a value that is coming from a variable that you need to replace. Again, there is P here. There is a value that is coming. So this is what you talk to. So you describe what you want to React. Then React will be the one that will handle how everything is going to get to the screen like this. So by the time you get to the screen, you start seeing all the necessary code. But with your normal HTML, if you want to do it, with your normal HTML and CSS and JavaScript, if you want to do it, there's a lot of things you have to type for you to have this functionality. But yeah, it looks as if you are doing your normal HTML and at the same time you are using JavaScript directly under it, which makes things simpler for us to work with there like that. So I want you to share your screen back so that we can complete the setup at your end too, because we're going to be doing some practical there like that in the next class. So share your screen. Let me stop the recording of this one.